This happens all the time. Welcome to Northern BC Narratives on Location. Today, I have an amazing story with an amazing gentleman, Dr. Travis Morgan. Doctor, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Nice to see you again, Zeus.
Talk about a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I'm a chiropractor in Prince George. 18 years in practice.
Yeah.
Started down in a not so nice area of town, moved into a better clinic,
Yeah.
and now I've got 2 massage therapists, another chiropractor. We're trying to get an MRI approved. It's not going well, but so 2 kids, wife, dog. Yeah. And I'm 3rd generation born in Prince George. So we've been here, 3rd generation here. Yeah, I was born in the same hospital my mom was.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, especially, I mean, what did my grandfather, he was born here in 28, I think.
1920.
Well, yeah, he lied so that he could get his driver's license early. So I don't know if it was 28 or 29.
What do you mean? What do you mean he lied? He just like to get 1 year ahead?
Yeah, so he was like 15, wanted a
Yeah.
driver's license, went to the DMV and said, I'm
Yeah.
16, my name's Bob Cindia, and you didn't have to prove it. Passed his driver's license, and away he went.
Now you can't do that stuff anymore, eh?
No,
They
they're
punch
a
your
little
name in, everything comes out. You know, this is the pizza he likes, or, you know, this is the, you know, everything
They
is
want
there.
a little more ID than that,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
So
Doc, you know, I've been to your office. You know, you're a great doctor, right? You know,
you're
you
gonna
fixed my,
mix one head here.
you fixed my back. You know, I couldn't walk. I was becoming almost crippled here. But you know, you fixed my back. You know, things are better. How did you start it? Like when you were a kid. Tell me about your childhood. How everything started for you. How did you even become a chiropractor?
Well, I was going to be a medical doctor first, actually.
Yeah.
Since I was 6 years old, I wanted to be a medical doctor.
6 years old.
Yeah,
And-
what happened, I was picking up a muskrat and ended up in the hospital for like
Yeah.
2 weeks. Decided I wanted to be a medical doctor at that time.
What do you mean muskrat? What does that mean?
Like a little, like kind of halfway between a rat and a beaver.
Yeah.
When I was picking it up and it bit me and I got a parasite and
Parasite.
ended up in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Parasite from what? From in your blood?
When I got bit, yeah, and I don't remember exactly what the diagnosis was. I got bit by a muskrat. I ended up in the hospital for like 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was quite the experience. But so I was going to be a medical doctor, and then all through high school, that was the plan. Went to SFU.
Yeah.
When I was at SFU,
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling well. Went to the campus clinic.
Yeah.
Well, it's allergies, they told me, and then go ahead.
Before we get into that, I want to hear about your childhood a little bit. How was your childhood?
My childhood.
Yeah, let's talk about like how was it? What did you do? Right, and then talk about your grandfather because I think your grandfather was a big influence on you, right?
Yeah, my grandfather was a big influence on me.
So talk about he was a chiropractor also.
No.
wasn't?
You know, he didn't even finish grade 6.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay, so talk about your grandfather.
So he
The
was
influence he had on you.
He was immigrant family. His mom actually moved over.
Yeah.
The story I was told, his dad needed a wife.
Yeah.
Sent back to, I think Serbia.
Yeah.
Said, hey, Mike Cindia needs a wife in Canada, and they basically were at a town hall. My great grandmother said, oh, I'll go. So she jumped on a train, then a boat, and then a train, and she came over here. Got here, and my grandfather was like 45, or sorry, my great grandfather was like 45 or 50, and she was like 20 or something like
Oh my
that.
God, okay.
So she cried in her room for a week. And then she came out and said she's going to make the best of it. And then he was about 2 when she passed. So he used to live on Cranbrook Hill, and then he'd walk down to where KGV used to be, kind of where Dutchess Park is now.
Yep.
So I mean, what's that? 20 kilometers, 10 kilometers? I don't know. It's a ways. Let's just say that.
Yep.
And went to school there, but he hated school so bad he would go shovel coal on the railroad for free rather than
For free.
For free. He'd just go down there and shovel coal all day.
Must have hate school.
Yeah, so he quit in grade 6 and then got his license eventually at 15, and which we talked about. And then he got into logging, had a small sawmill, then heavy equipment contracting, and ended up doing quite well for himself. But they were so poor he was barefoot in the summer.
What do you mean barefoot in the summer? He had
No shoes.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they couldn't afford to buy shoes in the summer, so for the summer shoes, so they'd get a new pair.
That's crazy.
That's at least what they told me. I mean,
Yeah.
you never know.
Well,
how
these
these
stories
family
are
stories
amazing.
come down, right? So, started out, I guess, in a trailer park where I found the muskrat, and then moved up onto the heart. I don't know, normal childhood.
Yeah. So what were some influences? I mean, did your grandfather have some influences on you? Any influence from your
His
grandfather?
work ethic
Yeah.
would probably be it. He always used to say, you know, you work when there's work, and when there's not work, you go look for more. Right. So yeah, I was lucky. I got to spend a lot of time with him. I used to, in the summers, we'd go. So he was up McLeod Lake, and I would go out there and work. Right. Which, you know, when I was younger, that meant, you know, stack firewood. As I got older, I'd go work on, you know, I'd run some heavy equipment, and then ended up being a driller blaster for him for a couple of years.
For your grandfather?
Yeah, for his company.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
So he started from nothing, and then he opened a business.
Yeah, he somehow, and I don't know how, he got like a timber license, and then they had a sawmill, and actually he put I don't know if you're familiar with Carp Lake, he put that road in, and he was Carp Lake Lumber, and their sawmill was up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little kind of sawmill. Still had the teeth for the blades when I was a kid. I found them in a shed one time.
So what were some of the influences he had on you? Did he have any influence on you, or no?
Oh, it's just a tough question, right? Because like, I can't point to one specific trait. Like he always worked.
So I guess your work ethics come from your father, your grandfather.
Grandfather, yeah. And then, I mean, my dad worked for my grandfather for like 25, 30 years, something like that, and stayed in his house with him. So whenever I saw my grandfather, my dad was there too. So it was kind of just part and parcel together.
That's amazing, you know, because like most people, they don't have stuff like that, right? So,
No. So that was growing up, especially on my mom's side of the family, like every birthday, every holiday, the entire family would be like 25, 30 people there for Christmas.
Oh, wow.
So,
This is
yeah,
like an
it
army.
was-
You have your own military, everybody.
Yeah, it was a close family. So.
And then children, grandchildren, all that stuff probably too,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
just bigger and bigger. Wow,
Yeah.
25. That's
That was
amazing.
good. So that would be.
So was there anybody in your family that influenced you to become a chiropractor? Was there anybody that...
I'm the first male on my mom's side of the family, like of my cousins, to actually graduate from high school.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I don't know.
So you're like the hero of the family. Like
No,
Superman.
just one of the family. So I'm the first one. I'm the first male to go to college.
Yeah.
So no, I mean we're kind of just heavy equipment contractors, loggers, that kind of thing on my mom's side. My dad's side, I knew a couple of them quite well, but some of them, you know, you see every couple of years kind of thing,
All
right?
cousins
So,
and things like that.
Yeah. So more of a traditional cousin relationship where you just don't see them as often, right?
So Doc, you're an athlete. You're an athlete, right?
Yeah.
So you're a wrestler from.
I was a wrestler, yeah.
Let's talk about that. You know, I just want to find out more about your story. Like, how good were you? I heard stuff. You know, like, oh, he's so good. You know, everybody talks about you. Like, you probably some of the people I met.
You're being kind.
They got choked out or something like that. We had a guy here, a couple of Murray, right? I think it was Murph. I think it was another person here. He was talking about how good of an athlete you are, and you know, it was like bragging about you. Oh, I know him, blah blah. So let's talk about how do you get to wrestling? What was the whole point of that?
Grade 8, I was dragged into a wrestling kind of. One of my cousin's friends grabbed me, pulled me into the room, said, "You're signing up for wrestling." So I went for wrestling. And grade 8, I was unathletic and pudgy. It went all right, I guess. I got beat a lot. Wrestled all through high school. I was actually really fortunate. My coach, he was about 22 at the time once I hit about grade 10, 11. And he was a national level wrestler himself. He was a national level coach. Like, he was an excellent coach. And I was fortunate at the time because he was kind of like contract work. He was on and off. And for like a couple months during each wrestling season, he'd be off. So I was 4 days a week. We'd be on the mat. So won provincials in grade 11 and grade 12, got a scholarship to SFU.
Wow.
So then I was varsity at SFU for a year, got sick, took a year off, went back for 2 years because I would sooner be sick and wrestle than not wrestle. And then that was kind of the wrestling career. So I did all right nationally. I can't say I was the best in the nation at all. Like I was top 5 a couple times. So
I heard you were choking people out. They
No,
tried to run away. You pull them by their feet and get over here.
different kind of wrestling. Yeah, no, it was all Olympic freestyle, and I liked it. I really did. It gives you wrestling's, I think, a unique sport in that it really puts in perspective what you can take before you quit. And if you talk to somebody who's wrestled in college, they'll probably tell you the same thing: is you kind of get really used to being uncomfortable because you kind of just hurt, and it just is what it is. Yeah.
So is that, I said, good for your back or bad for your back wrestling? Or?
No, it's horrible for your neck.
Are you serious?
Well, you're on your head all the time. People are trying to smush your face in the mat. They're trying to, My neck isn't in great shape. My low back's pretty good, but it's actually probably the best area of my body, truth be told.
Your lower back?
Yeah, my knees are shot. My shoulders are bad. My neck is bad.
Are you serious?
Well, after wrestling, I went into CrossFit, which isn't known to be super easy on your body.
Yeah.
While I was at CrossFit, I got into, they were Tough Mudders mostly, but I did 2 of the world's toughest mudders, and those are 24-hour ones. And with CrossFit, I made regionals, so that was twice-a-day training for a year or so, and that CrossFit led to my right shoulder needing surgery, and then I switched over to do a bit of powerlifting, and that took out my left knee, so that's had 3 surgeries. So.
I'm very surprised, Doc. Like, that's crazy. So did you win any awards and things like that for your powerliftings and things?
I guess, but I mean,
oh, look at this guy.
Well,
he's like holding back. I know you're holding back. I can feel it.
No, it's because
You're holding back.
I didn't follow through with it. So with powerlifting, there's raw and then there's pro and amateur or raw. There's I had a belt, and that was the only assistance. So some of them will wear various implements to protect the joint. I didn't do that. And then because it's amateur, it's all enhancement free, I guess is a polite way of saying it. It's tested, and then I'm not talking about the pro, just I know with the amateur. And for my age and weight, there was no Canadian record when I lifted, so this is why it's kind of funny, is each lift was a Canadian record because nobody bothered following through with it. Well, then I didn't follow through with it, so I don't technically have the record, even though like I had them. So that's why, no, I don't have any records for powerlifting at all. I can't say that. I was never that strong. I'm not, not a national level anything. And I mean, look at me now. I go to the gym 2 or 3 days a week and try and stave off obesity.
I know what you mean. It's so hard to lose weight when you get older, right? So.
Well, it's just hard to stay active when you got, business, wife, kids, that kind of stuff. So I make it a priority. Actually, right now is my gym time. But
doctor, we can leave the table while we talk. So, I should have checked your ears first to know that you were a wrestler.
Yeah.
Because my mom's brother was a pro wrestler in my country. He was like one of the best. And then my other mom's brother, same thing. These guys were like huge. Like the whole family is like they're like tall. You look at them like this. I don't know what happened to me, but and they had all the years. And I was looking at the years, and I see that you have like some wrestling, stuff.
I've got some cauliflower ear on this one. That's been drained probably 6 times, so it's way better than it would be if I didn't get it drained.
Yeah, it would be like I've seen some of the stuff. I'll tell you something funny. There are some people in my culture, right? They want to say they're tough. You know what they do? They take their ears, they put it in between the door, and they just flip it, right? And then the ears are like that. They're like, these guys, they have the biggest ears, toughest guy, and they have they don't even know how to wrestle in any way or shape or form. But you look at the ears and go, this guy got to be the toughest.
He must be doing something.
Yeah, and then you find that for a couple of years, he's putting his ear behind the door and smashing it. It was crazy. There was a lot of stories like that. So, Doc, how was your parents? Did you have any influence from your parents?
Well, everybody was influenced by their parents. Mom was the nurturer. Dad went to work.
Yeah.
So actually, Dad, he worked out of town my entire life. Yeah. So he was lucky. He did a 5 and 2. Yeah. So he was out of town 5 days all week, and he'd come home on the weekends. Called Mom every night, but I mean, he was only around on the weekends because he was working. Yeah. He was Well, I would guess I was about 19 or something like that,
Yep.
and I don't know, he was having a day, and he was worried that I really resented him for it, and I said, no, I mean, that's the best way you could provide for your family,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
you went to work where the work was, kind of thing. He wanted us to move out there, but Mom didn't want us growing up remote like that. She wanted us in town so that we had better opportunities, I guess. And she stayed home till we were about 12, 13, my sister and I, and then she started working, mainly because sports started to get expensive. So in order to cover the costs of sport, my sister was a figure skater, I was wrestling, rugby.
The whole family is like a sport person.
You gotta have kids and things, right? Otherwise they get in trouble.
Yeah, you have to,
so,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
like
know.
that's why
It's,
my kids are in gymnastics 3-4 days a week, every week.
keep them
kind of
busy
thing.
so they don't have time.
Busy and tired, can't get into trouble. So, that kind of framework is, I mean, though I'm home every night, that's really how we have my family set up, right? Where my wife stays at home, she does the nurturing, I go to work, and it works.
It's very important. I think what's happening right now, the nurturing is disappearing. So children are left on their own, and then they're gonna. Right.
It's interesting because it's not really anybody's fault.
Yeah.
We
Everything's too expensive.
It's too expensive.
Yeah,
People can't afford. I mean, I come across a lot of people, and well, you've been in the clinic. After we do the analysis, we figure out what we're gonna do. There's kind of, I run my mouth to keep you distracted, so it's easier to adjust you. So I talk to people
All the time.
all the time, and I would say the majority of patients, when the topic comes up, are like, I wish I could stay home. Like the moms, I wish I could be home with my kids, and the dads would be like, yeah, it'd be so, but it's just not.
It's too expensive.
It's really challenging, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. And you're right. Then the kids are kind of, the daycare providers do their best, and the school system does its best. But I mean, it is what it is, right?
My mom was a stay-home mom, but she had a university degree and everything. But my
really?
dad would provide, right?
Yeah.
And then my mom would just nurture us, right?
Well, I mean,
So that was
how old
the
are you?
thing.
You allowed to say on this?
No,
Yeah, you're 39, right?
I'm 19.
Yeah, you're 19. So, but when we grew up, that was super common. I mean, I lived on a block with, say, 10 houses, and we had 10 stay-at-home moms, right? Everybody's mom stayed home, and you got your butt whipped by any lady in the neighborhood if you screwed up. Everybody was watching.
One time I did something very stupid. I cannot say what I did.
Just one time?
Well, many times. I was a bad kid.
This particular time.
And anyway, so somebody come to the door. We had a 3-story high apartment, right? And every one of it was we left on the 3rd floor. My parents on the 1st floor, and then in the middle it was my uncle. Right?
Oh yeah.
And it's huge, right? But they weren't there that day. My mother. This lady came to the door. So I ran home, and then I closed the door. Boom. So this lady came to the door and told my mom some stuff, right? And I was looking, my heart was beating, right? She turned around, looked at me, and I knew I was in trouble. My mother ran after me 3 stories high. She cornered me and she gave me the nicest slap I ever had.
The nicest slap. It was full of love.
I was full of love. I couldn't believe it. It was like I never got hit by my mother. It was crazy. Like my eyes was like, really? It was so crazy. But it made you like change and stuff like that, right? It made you stay out of trouble, right?
Yeah.
You had somebody there that was always watching for you, and I think that's very important.
Yeah,
right?
you couldn't get away with much. We actually, my friends and I just about burned down the neighborhood one time. We were matches, playing with fire, and then we had a little grass fire go. So the solution was they actually got every kid in the neighborhood in the basement and brought the fire department in, and they gave us a lecture, and that was the end of the playing with matches.
Are you serious?
That was the end of getting caught playing with matches anyways.
I love that. I love fire. It was my favorite thing to do when I was a kid because I couldn't explain it. So Doc, talk about, you had some back problem yourself, right? Did you have any back issues?
Kinda, yeah. My girlfriend, when I was in, second year university, she had to walk on my back all the time.
Okay.
So she got mad at me and said, listen, you're going to my chiropractor or I'm not going to do this anymore. And she had this like coupon, and the exam was like $10 or something like that. I don't remember how much it was. So I took the coupon. I'm like, okay, I'll go to this guy. And then he's not going to do anything anyways, and then she'll just keep walking on my back. So it was worth the, whatever time plus the $10 or whatever it was.
How was your experience when you were you like nervous when you went there, or?
I was still going to be a medical doctor, so I still had the same mentality as your average kind of Western medicine person. I was literally like, I'll go see this quack. He's going to like whatever. So I was just like, I was going through the motions just so that she would keep walking on my back, and I'd be damned if he didn't fix my back. Yeah. But I wasn't impressed. I was like, well, yeah, but that's what he's supposed to do. Yeah. So I was still pretty like whatever, right? Still going to be a medical doctor. Yeah. And then I noticed I wasn't getting sick anymore. And I'm actually not supposed to, this is my experience. This is not the experience I'm supposed to say to people in the province of BC.
So
this is my personal experience.
Doctor's personal
this
experience.
Is me. This is what happened.
Don't take it,
we are
not responsible for anything.
Yes, this is not what the college wants me to say, but I stopped getting sick. So all through my childhood, like I had the infection I told you about, but like every year I'd have 1 or 2 rounds of antibiotics. I was at the doctor's office a lot, and this continued. So in my first year of university, I was in the health clinic constantly. So then I quit wrestling because I thought, well, I can't keep doing this, and then met this girl, and she made me go to the chiropractor, and then I went back to wrestling because I was like, I missed it. Yeah. Well, that whole season I didn't get sick, which usually it's 2 or 3 times. And like if something went through the team, I got it every time. And then third year I didn't get sick. I had one in 2 years. Yeah. I had one skin infection, and I had this like wrestling because of the match.
The
like
rashes
skin,
and
and I had like this little red mark on my arm, and I was tired that day, and I told my coach, see, look, I got ringworm. It wasn't. He knew it wasn't, and he just told me to go home, right? And I couldn't, so after about a year, I was still going once to the chiropractor.
Once, how often? Once a month? Once every 2 weeks?
So it started out every couple or twice a week because it wouldn't set, because I'd go from the chiropractor to wrestling practice. It wasn't his fault. And at this point, it was probably once every week to 2. Yeah. So I went in and I'm like, I haven't been sick. Yeah. And he started laughing at me. I was like, what? He says, I already told you what's going on. Your brain controls everything, even your immune system. Your immune system's working better. And that was like, oh.
Just by adjustment.
Yeah, so that made more sense to me. Yeah. I'm not saying that the other system isn't effective and isn't necessary. Yeah. What I'm saying is that made more sense to me personally. Yeah. So made him explain it some more. And then after that, that's when I switched to being a chiropractor. I wanted to be a chiropractor. Yeah. And then went down to actually September 23rd, 2001, moved to Atlanta, Georgia
be a chiropractor.
To start chiropractic college, which was like 2 days after the plane started flying. My parents tried to get me to not go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was September 11th, and I went on the 23rd, right? So that was the first test of whether I was going to be a chiropractor or not. Yeah.
So, Doc, were you on any scholarships or grants and things like that before the chiropractic?
No, not for chiropractic college. That actually my grandfather helped me out with.
Before?
Well, I had a SFU. I had a tuition and fees scholarship for wrestling.
So, when you decided to be a chiropractor, you probably lost that, right?
No, I kind of. I mean, I couldn't wrestle at SFU and go to Life University in Marietta, Georgia. So mine was an athletic scholarship, and so I could have finished. I didn't finish my undergrad degree. Yeah. I did a little bouncing around. I actually ended up taking full course load the entire time, and still just didn't. I mean, the kinesiology program at SFU. The joke is it's a 4-year program that takes you 5 years because there's just so much to it. Wow. But didn't finish. So
when you say you wanted to be a medical doctor, right? Yeah. What kind of medical doctor? Is like children medical doctor or adult?
I actually wanted to be in the ER. That was I wanted to be an emergency room physician. Yeah, that was my plan.
So tough, because you have to do so many things, and you have to be like, it's a very stressful situation. So you can handle that.
I guess I never tried in the end, right? I never made it to the emergency room. I've been there a number of times, but I don't buckle under stress typically. Yeah. I guess.
So you're good at it, right?
Usually.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I
Some
can
people
usually
don't have
handle a
that,
lot.
yeah.
I bounce back quick too, right? Like
Okay, so you got the
yeah.
mental like
Yeah,
capacity.
I can like water off a duck's behind a lot of the times,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
something goes sideways, I'll have
Yeah.
a little a moment, and I'll be good.
How do you get there? How did you put your mind like this
To where?
to this state that you can be able to just kind of let go of things? You didn't. It's just natural.
It's just the way I am. It
Okay.
really is, yeah.
Because
I
some
don't know,
people they have to do a lot of things to get there. A lot of like.
Yeah, I understand that. I don't know. I just never really. In my doctoring, the weakest area I have with helping people is literally that aspect of it, the mental emotional. I'm just not great at it.
Okay.
My pastor, he says he's a terrible pastor
Yeah.
at pastoring because if you come to him with a mental emotional problem,
Yeah.
he's like, suck it up, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And that, I guess that kind of resonates with me. I have a hard time with it. I don't
Yeah.
tell my patients to suck it up.
Yeah.
That's not right. I try and help them best I can.
Yeah.
It's just that's my weakest.
Yeah.
That's my weakest part.
Oh, it's good though, right? Because then you don't get down at all, right? You can keep moving forward, right?
Well, I guess, yeah.
I think that's one of the best mental state you could have because nothing bothers you. You can constantly you could move forward, no matter what failure you had or if something bad happens. You just like, hey, whatever, try this, right? And that's I think a lot of businessmen are like that too, right? They don't care about whatever happens. Like if they fail 100 times, they're like, at least I tried.
Yeah.
Most people don't even try, then they go move forward. And they always win at the end because they don't get tired, right?
I must be doing something wrong because I don't think I always win at the end.
No, you're doing really good.
We're
you know.
doing well, yeah. The latest one, the MRI not getting approved, was a bit
It's
of a
gonna
problem,
get approved. There's
Yeah,
it's gonna take some time, right? So
we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully it gets approved. So Doc, so you went to Atlanta, Georgia, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you went there, and then this probably was very different than the other stuff you were taking. What was the difference between your
Well,
medical school and then now you're doing the chiropractic?
Well, I wasn't in medical school. I was at SFU for an undergrad in
Yeah.
kinesiology.
Okay.
So it flowed really nicely, right? Like it's anatomy, physiology. It did flow well. It wasn't like I have a buddy, for instance, in chiropractic college. He took Spanish and then went to chiropractic college. That's a large, right? That's a large difference.
Yeah.
Whereas kinesiology, study human kinetics, study
Yeah.
human motion.
Yeah.
I mean, that flows well with chiropractic.
Exactly,
So, I mean,
yeah.
kinesiology really is a lot of the time uses a stepping stone degree where you're actually planning on going, chiro, physio, medical, these kind of things, right? Where some people are kinesiologists, but a lot of them are planning on moving forward, right? So the academic part was pretty similar. That wasn't really a challenge. I won't say it wasn't a challenge. It flowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I enjoy something and I'm interested in it, I can usually pick it up fairly easy. So I did. I don't want to say I did pretty well because I don't want to.
It was easy. It was easy for you.
I picked it up pretty easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you learn in this being a chiropractor? What were some of the things that you were learning and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't know that. Oh wow, I didn't know. You know what I mean? Like, what are some of the things
It
that?
was more of an expansion on the philosophy. Was really more what it was. I mean, there's the hands-on part that obviously you have no idea what you're doing when you show up, right? You might as well even have fingers for how dexterous you are when you start, kind of thing.
What
It's
do you
just,
mean? What do you mean?
it's very challenging for some of the techniques to learn how to adjust, right? So like when I'm adjusting necks in the chair, for instance, right? Like I missed, or I didn't get movement for the first year.
It took you 1 year to get
Yeah, it's really frustrating to learn that technique. It really is. But once you have it, you have it. So that was pretty big.
Yeah.
So chiropractic is much more of a vitalistic philosophy versus a mechanistic healthcare philosophy. So I was raised in kind of the traditional medical model, right? And that I lived it. That's what I wanted to do. And then chiropractic is much more of a vitalistic philosophy where the statement, the body heals itself, right?
Yeah.
We just got to get the problems out of the way so the body can take care of it. So that aspect of it was really different, right? So that's where the big split in chiropractic comes. Even if you go to a couple different chiropractors, you'll get different answers because some of them are much more Western medicine, mechanistic, somewhat similar to physiotherapy, and some of them are much more traditional chiropractic where we're adjusting you to help everything. The problem we get into is that if I talk too much about this,
Yeah.
it gets construed and people get a little upset.
So, Doc, let's talk about the experience at the school,
Okay.
and then how you finished it, and then what was the next step?
So I went to life in Marietta, Georgia, right by the Dobbs Air Force Base, actually. You can see the jets going over.
Wow.
Yeah, and I moved September 23rd, and I didn't have a car, so September 24th, I went and bought a bike. Riding my bike home, I got hit by a car.
You got hit by a car.
Yeah, so I was on the wrong side of the road, so I was coming down the road, and he was looking that way. And
Is it a head-on collision?
well, I kind of like that.
Okay.
So the front end of the car hit me broadside so then I flew over his hood, went skidding across the pavement, got up, and America very, very litigious. So he's worried I'm gonna sue him. Like, and he's like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm all right, man. And he's like, what do you mean you're all right? I'm like, no, I'm all right. Yeah. So I get on my bike, and when I got hit, it pushed everything in. So now the crank wouldn't crank. So I got on it, tried to crank it, it wouldn't crank, just about fell over. Yeah. And I looked down, and I picked my bike up, and I started walking away. And I hadn't asked him for his number or anything like that. He actually bought me a new bike.
Oh, wow.
And then he wouldn't let me ride it back I bought it at Kmart, actually. So he bought me, and I remember being in there. I'm like, well, that one's the same one. Yeah. He's like, no, you get the best one here. So I got the best bike at Kmart. And then he wouldn't let me ride it home because he didn't want me to get hit again. Yeah. So he drove me home. And that was day 2. Oh, wow. Then I was a campus guide. You're only allowed to work on the campus.
Yeah.
And then they got in actually, so the college, Life College of Chiropractic, was part of the Life University system, and the president was a guy named Sid Williams, and he was opinionated. He was a trip. He was actually pretty entertaining. Yeah. Did you ever watch Foghorn Leghorn on Bugs Bunny and Tweety Show? You know the Big Rooster? Yeah. Sounded just like him.
The Big Rooster.
Yeah. So, anyways. He got in a fight with the accreditation agency. Yeah. And my student status, F1 student status, was based on going to an accredited post-secondary institution. Well, they lost their accreditation. So I had to leave, but they lost it. Yeah. Then they had a legal injunction filed, and until the court case was heard, they had their accreditation again. Yeah. So I transferred to Palmer in Davenport, Iowa, because I couldn't risk them not winning their
it's a serious stuff, right? So.
Yeah, there was a bit. So, I mean, that was the third thing that I almost probably should have left, you know. And September 11th happened, then I got hit by a car. Yeah. And then my
Did you have any injuries from the car?
Not really.
No. So then at the new school, how long did it take for you to finish everything?
About 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, I was in Iowa for about 3 years. Oh. Yeah, and I liked Iowa. Actually, people make fun of Iowa, but, you know, low cost of living. Oh. At the time, I was golfing. I wasn't very good at all. I was terrible. But they had, they had like 10 golf courses. It was great. We'd go every week. Yeah. And then winters are cold but not snowy, so it was good. Lived right. The school is in like a railroad section of town. Yeah. And we lived like, the first place I lived was in the middle of a cornfield, which was like a half-hour commute. So we're living in the middle of this cornfield, and then had to move. Yeah. And then we're living right by the school, which, I mean, there was a drug shooting a block away from me.
Wow.
So it was interesting. You know?
I could make a whole movie about your life. I'm getting visions of cornfield and then drug shooting.
Well, the cornfield, I bought this cat. Yeah. And he was a little bastard, that cat. He wasn't a very nice cat. Yeah. And he liked to attack you. But I was watching M. Night Shyamalan's Signs, and it was where the guy was getting scared right in the middle of a cornfield. So here I am living in this middle of this cornfield, and just at a jump scare, that cat jumped on me, scared the hell out of me.
Did you like?
Yeah. So then he ran away, and I didn't go look for him.
Did he come back again?
No, that was the end.
He wanted to welcome you.
Well, he was a stray. That's the way he liked living, I guess. So I didn't go look for him. Yeah.
That is crazy. All these crazy things happening. So when you finished school, what happened after that?
I was going to go to, so I had a job. I could have went and worked in England. I actually went and checked out the clinic, and it just, something didn't seem right. Yeah. I had a job offer in Peoria, Illinois, and I could have had, you know, fairly easily been in Vancouver as well. Yeah. but I wanted to have my own clinic. So I wanted to be Burnaby Mountain Family Chiropractic, but I also thought, well, let's check out a couple of areas. So I went over, the first place I went was Vancouver Island, and I went and looked at a location in Oak Bay, actually. And then I went to a bank. I won't say which bank because it's not fair. I went there and I remember sitting with the lady and I put my business plan down and I had my potential lease and I said, okay, I need whatever dollars.
Yeah.
And she looked me dead in the eye and she said, I think there's probably enough chiropractors in this area, don't you?
What? Where was
Literally.
this? Where was this? Was it in Prince George or something?
No, it was in Victoria.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Like,
She literally looked me dead in the eye and said that. So I picked up my papers,
Thank you very much.
went to find my pride, walked away.
Yeah.
So then,
And then not even like, hey, your good business plan is okay.
didn't even look at it, just blanked me. I was there for like literally 4 minutes. Got up, left. So then I was going to back on being Burnaby Mountain Family Chiropractic, and then I was on Hastings down by Kensington Square, and I was
Hastings
looking
is
at
crazy,
well, no, that area of Hastings nice. East Hastings bad. This one's good. So the rent was going to be like $40 a square foot or something, and this is in 2005. And I'm like, I am just going to. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to work to pay my rent. That's it. That's all. So I was whatever. And then I needed a break because Victoria just didn't pan out at all. And I was a little disheartened about the rent in Vancouver. Yeah. So I come back to Prince George and my mom and dad were like, well, why don't you look around here? And I'm like, at this time I had my heart set on being down in the Lower Mainland like most young people do.
Because you were in all these nice places and you want to be like,
because I spent 4 years at SFU, that was like, I'd come to see that as home, right? Yeah. And so whatever, started looking at rents up here, and I found a place down between 1st and 2nd on Quebec Street. It was $1,500 a month, 1,500 square feet, everything included.
Wow.
Heat, lights, rent,
$1,500,
snow removal, everything. I'm like, well, I can afford that.
Yeah.
Right? So then I set up and built the office up there, and then after 5 years, the neighborhood. In 2005, the neighborhood wasn't
as exciting,
great, but it wasn't bad. It was, it was okay.
Yeah.
By 2010, my realtor's phoning me being like, you don't want to see what's going on in your alley. And so I moved to the location we're at now in 2010. We've been there 13 years. And I also wanted more space because I opened a gym next to the office as part of a wellness program. Yeah. And then that gym got too busy, so I had to move that. Yeah. And that was the first CrossFit gym in Prince George. Yeah. And then coaches that worked for us eventually left, and that's where all of the CrossFit gyms in Prince George came from.
Did you close the gym?
I sold it, and then it subsequently closed during COVID. They couldn't stay open.
Perfect timing, isn't it?
Well, I sold in 2017, so it was 3 years before everything went sideways, and yeah.
So your grandfather helped you with your school, right?
Yeah, he did.
How did he help you? What kind of help did he give you?
Yeah, he helped pay for it. He paid for it.
He was very proud of you, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I like to think he was.
Your shiny grandson. He puts you on his shoulder. It's like the light up my eyes. Some grandfathers are like that.
I don't
I was
know.
my favorite, my grandfather's favorite. I'll probably get murdered if anybody else hears it. But he loved me so much. I was like, he's like his favorite kids, and everybody was like, they'd be like this, right? So,
one of his friends paid for his
tuition fees?
One of his friends paid for his kids' tuition fees or nephew's tuition fees. And he always thought was a real nice thing. Okay. So I don't think they ever really wanted me going into the family business because they didn't, whatever. Yeah. And then I had started paying them back, and then everybody kind of just, unfortunately, died. So.
That's important, right? You have a support like that, right?
Oh God, yeah. The safety net we had growing up was just unbelievable.
Did he give you advice and things like that?
Remember I said that you work when there's work, and when there's not work, you look for work? Yeah. So I signed on to this practice management company because what the heck did I know about running a chiropractic practice, right? I knew how to adjust, but that was it. Yeah. And one of the recommendations they had was you work 4 morning shifts and 4 afternoon shifts a week, right? So Tuesday afternoon I was off, and Thursday morning I was off, and I remember running into him on it was like a Tuesday afternoon, and my girlfriend, who's now my wife, was with me, and they were up doing something. We drove up. He looked at me. And he's, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What I'm doing? I'm off." He goes, "What if somebody's back hurts and they come by your office and you're not there? You could have another customer." So he'd never come right out and he used to when I was a kid. He's all at you, but he never come right out and say it. He did something similar too. When we had wanted to get married in a resort destination wedding, but it was very important for me that he come to my wedding. So I said to him, I said, "Hey, if I didn't know if you had a passport, so I'm like, if I get you a passport and I book your ticket."
Where was the marriage?
It was here.
Okay.
Yeah. You just give away the ending of the story.
Okay, never mind. Go ahead. Okay. So you had to move here, I guess.
Well, no, I was here. I met my wife here at a grocery store. But
wait. This is a juicy story here. Talk about how you met your wife before we get to all this.
So before my clinic was open, I needed some money, right? I had no job. So my mom was in charge of hiring at Save-On for the changeover where they rearrange the shelves so you get lost and buy more.
Yeah.
So
that's what they do.
That's what they do.
That's
That's what they do. So my mom hires me, and I'm doing this night shift thing.
And then you're a doctor still, or you're chiropractor doctor, and then you're working, right? Oh,
So actually, when I was working there, I was sick. I was tired. I didn't want to go to work. And the guy said, "We need a note from your doctor." And I looked him dead in the eye, and I said, "You got a pen?" And he goes, "What?" I'm like, "I'm a doctor. I'll give you a note." He didn't know what to do, so he just told me to go to work. But anyways, my mom actually hired her too, not trying to set us up. She just happened to hire her, and we ended up. And this is so cheesy.
No, go ahead. I like cheesy.
The first time we worked together was in the dang baby aisle at Save-On.
Oh,
Right? Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You're doing the setup right there.
It's embarrassing.
Okay.
But anyway,
no.
That's how I met my wife.
Okay, no, you didn't make it juicy. So what happened? First time you met her in the baby aisle, what was she doing? What were you doing? And then
rearrange the shelves.
What was the eye contact? Did you feel like, oh, I like this girl? Or was there any kind of connections, or did the connection slowly develop?
There was a connection that then developed, right?
Yeah.
I actually, this time in my life, I'm terrible. So I get her number and then promptly don't show up again to work.
Yeah.
And then I was building out my office or something, and they kind of called, and that was the first night we went out. So
how was the first date?
It was good. It was really good.
Was there a lot of conversations? And
it was at a bar, so it was good. Yeah, it was like a group date, and then and she'd kill me if I got into it more than that. So let's just leave it alone.
Okay, so then what happened after that? You guys became how did the relationship develop? And then you have kids, right? How did all that happen? And then we go back to
were
the
together
business.
for a year. I hired my front desk girl, lady, and then that was on the condition that she was going to be off for 2 months because she was going to Chile to get married.
Yeah.
So then she wanted me to house sit, and then that was our first kind of move in. She stayed with me a lot while we were there, and then we moved into a basement suite, and then we had, and then actually I almost closed the clinic because business was really slow, really slow. And I actually had a job offer in Australia, and then I just about took the job in Australia, and I was gonna have to eat a lot of crow, and because I still had bills, I was gonna have to bankrupt. It was gonna be a thing. And then she's then my daughter started being developed. So girlfriend at the time, pregnant. So then it was well, we don't want to have a newborn in Australia because she would have been Izzy would have showed up basically when we got there, kind of thing.
And she'd be Australian, right?
Well, it's not just that. It's just new parents, new country.
Yeah, no grandparents,
nothing, right?
Oh,
and
man,
then so we didn't end up going, and that's when I ended up with the practice management coach because I'm oh my God, I got a kid on the way. I gotta we gotta get this thing going. So That and then lived in a basement suite for a while, and eventually we moved about every 4 years. We're gypsies. We're due now, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna move again?
No.
Okay, so
We're due,
talk
but I'm
about the
not doing
marriage. Talk about the marriage. What happened, and then your grandfather.
What do you mean? What happened?
So you said talk about the marriage story that you were talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I wanted. It was very important that my grandfather would be there, and we were going to do this destination wedding.
Yeah.
So I said to him, I said, you know, if I get your passport, if I come book your plane ticket, I come get you, I grab your bag for you, and he like laid it all out.
Yeah.
Will you come to my wedding in Mexico? He looked me dead in the eye
Yeah.
and said, "Isn't a justice of the peace still $45?" Well, that was the end of him. That was pops for you goofy bastard. I'm not going to your expensive wedding. Just get married here. You can't
Yeah.
afford it.
Yeah.
So we got married at the Ramada
Yeah.
on New Year's Eve,
Yeah.
and it was good. I mean, yeah.
Oh, your grandfather, I like your grandfather.
Oh,
he's
he
very,
was a- he
he's
was a
very
character.
no BS type of a person. You know, it's just like gives it to you straight. Right?
Yeah, he was.
We need more
fairly
people like that.
entertaining. Yeah. Some of this, I had the honor of doing his eulogy at his funeral. So you know how you talk.
Yeah.
So, anyways, and then that actually got published
Yeah.
in the Citizen.
Oh wow.
Yeah, in the newspaper. So they published. The reporter
Yeah.
kind of said she wrote it, but it was basically my eulogy. I'd sent it to her, and she altered some things, but I didn't care.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah. So
They-
that
they-
got
they
published.
Do that, they do
so-
that sometimes.
Yeah, whatever, right? It got published. That was cool.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So Doc, so you have a humble beginning basically, right? You went through so much trauma and stuff like that to get where you are right now, right?
I think I had it pretty easy in the grand
Yeah.
scheme of things, honestly.
But you
I
struggled. It's not- it
love and
wasn't-
bear it. Well, nothing's ever easy if it's
Yeah.
worth doing.
Yeah.
So, but
So when the first client walked into your office, what were your feelings? What were you feeling? What were you thinking? You're like, oh my
I was so excited. I remember the guy. He came in like once a month for like 10 years, and then he moved down south.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you his name.
No,
but
no, no, yeah.
yeah, he's still alive, so I can't tell you his name. But he actually, so he had been like with my mom's church or something, and they called me and they're like, his back really hurts. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't even have my clinic open yet. I'm like, we're not opening for another week. And they're like, well, he really hurts now. Can you have a look at him? And I had a license. It's just the clinic wasn't ready. So I brought him in on Labor Day 2005 was the day I saw my first patient.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it took me like an hour to
1
figure out
hour.
what I was going to do with him. I don't know if it was nerves, inexperience. Like it was forever to figure out what was going on with
Yeah.
him. Now, he was a bit of a talker too, so there was a lot of conversation.
Tried to
Yeah, oh,
concentrate.
absolutely.
You're saying, oh God.
Well, I had nothing else to do, right? Like I had one patient. I'm there all day, so right, just sit there and talk. It was good. Yeah. He used to come in. He actually used to come in and he'd say, "Arthur's barking pretty hard today," and that's when he was real sore because his arthritis was bad.
Yeah. And you helped him to kind of alleviate the pain a little bit, right?
Yeah, he felt a lot better. Well, he found value with it. He stayed with me. So yeah.
So Doc, how did your business expand and became bigger? Let's talk about that, because you almost went bankrupt, right?
Yeah, that was close.
But
like,
then
real
you didn't
close.
give up, right? You
No,
could
I
have
didn't.
given up and say, you know what?
So I used to do like I'd go to home shows. If anybody would let me go there, I would go. I spoke at a dang bridal shower, like not shower, like a bridal show.
Yeah.
So it's brides
Yeah.
looking for wedding things, and here's this chiropractor talking about healthcare. It didn't go well. Yeah, I muttered some sentence fragments and kind of walked out.
Yeah.
But I did every home show in town. If there was a health fair, I was there. We walked around the CN Center one time, put flyers on everybody's windows. I still have a copy of the flyer.
Yeah.
So that was about the first 4 or 5 years. It was after about 3 years, it started to be better. Like
Yeah.
I just my patient base grew. Medicine's a little different. Medical doctors are lucky. There's 6,000 people right now in Prince George waiting to see one. So I mean, they open up. They're busy from day one.
Yeah.
Chiropractor's a little different. We've got to build a business, and
Yeah.
it's an is what it is kind of thing, right? Then there was, at the same time as I opened, there was another chiropractic clinic that opened,
Yeah.
and they moved back east, so I bought them out. And then another lady was moving back east, so I bought her out
You're like the
too.
monopoly.
Well,
You know, the monopoly.
and then I've got the other chiropractor that works with me. Actually, he was working at a different clinic,
Yeah.
so he moved up, and I had offered him a job, but the other guy was unable to practice himself, so it was like a full practice, come and work, or it was me start over from scratch. So he went and worked with him, but I really liked Dr. Gilmore. I wanted him working with me,
Yeah.
so I actually bought that practice out to bring Gilmore over.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You forced
So-
him to come.
Yeah,
Look at you.
I won eventually. And he's been working with me for like 6 years now. I mean, we got a great relationship. I like having him.
That's amazing. You like he's a wrestling, you know. You just you outmatched everything, and it's like, hey, guess what?
Now you're here. yeah. So yeah. So that's kind of how it did. We had the wellness program that was that stemmed into CrossFit in 2011. It was like, what is it? The Healthier You Awards they used to do, and we were Health and Wellness Innovator of the Year from that. Rotary. I mean, I was involved in Rotary for a number of years, but now I'm on the college board for the College of Chiropractors of BC. So I'm just strapped for time. So I'm not with Rotary right now. I'll probably eventually go back, but right now I'm too busy.
So Doc, when you think about how you started, and now how things are, what are some of the lessons that you learned, and how do you feel about them right now?
Stick to what you know is probably the biggest lesson, because every time I try and get into an area that my wife will tell you, if I free up 15 minutes, I'm probably going to get 20 minutes worth of work. I'll find a new job. So again, I'm also a mortgage broker on the side. I've had a gym. I mean, I had a wellness program. I was a day trader for a while. I always try different things. The stuff that I know how to do, surprise, surprise, does really well. When I don't understand something, I really shouldn't. So I think I finally learned that lesson. Yeah, that was a big one. Looking back at things you could have done different. I don't know if there's like that one thing other than stick to what you know that really did it, because each lesson kind of builds on itself. And if you didn't learn it that way, how would you know? Right. So as long as you're paying attention to what doesn't work, I think that's really the trial and error that helps.
So Doc, what are some of the things that people should be careful with their backs and things like that, right? So they don't get back injury. What do you suggest, for some of these?
Bending with rotation is probably like bending over and lifting something rotated. That's terrible. That's the worst one. And then rotational things, so like shelving, you know how you like swoop around?
Yeah.
That one can be really, really hard on you.
Yeah.
But right now, the most common thing is cell phones.
You can get back injury
Text neck is just, I won't look for a patient for the rest of my career kind of thing because of text neck. That's how bad it is. What did they say? I used to have the numbers memorized. I really did, because I did an
What is it
interview
exactly? What happened to the neck? Does it get like what happens to it?
So tissue remodels under stress and time. So if you put a stress across the tissue and leave it there, it'll remodel that tissue, it'll change that tissue. So when we do this, it's actually remodeling the tissue. You're getting some stretching ligaments, you're getting compression in the front, which causes a bony change. So we're getting a ligamentous and bony change. The cervical curve is supposed to kind of be like a C. It does this, it goes the opposite direction, which has been found in studies to stretch the spinal cord. It's a pretty big deal. And it'll advance degeneration rates, right? So now you see what kids do. My kids do it too. It's so dang hard to get.
As a doctor, you like.
Oh, it drives me crazy. But I mean, you're guilty of it too, I bet. Sit there and stare at your cell phone, right? You got 2 minutes. Go into any waiting room now. Remember, they used to have Reader's Digest, or people.
All the kids are on the thing.
Yeah.
And you cannot tell them anything. I'm like, buddy, you've been here for 20 minutes. I'm waiting for this. You go to another kid, get out. I've been 15. They get angry.
Oh yeah.
Easy. I'm like, what are you working on? Your thumbs?
My son. Now this is Spotify, which is the music one, right? He said, was it yesterday? No, it's today. It comes out where your yearly Spotify number is, and they compare. And he said the kids that really get to flex, the kids that got the good numbers, 60 to 100,000 minutes they've been on Spotify.
Holy crap.
So that's just, I mean, I realize that's music, but like, what are they doing when they've got that on, right? Well, right?
Looking for the next one.
It's crazy, right? I mean, I grew up
Yeah.
in the Nintendo generation, right?
Yeah.
Nintendo came out when I got one for my 10th birthday.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to play it for a bit, and then your mom would get sick of having you in the house, and she'd kick you
Get out of here.
right? And
Right,
then you'd
right.
go get into whatever outside, but as long as she didn't see you, she didn't care, right? So that just doesn't happen now, right? Especially with COVID, right? We didn't want to get our kids cell phones, and then COVID hit.
We had no
and it
choice.
was, well, how are they supposed to talk to their friends? They're not allowed to go do anything. So, yeah, okay, you get cell phones, and now all they do is sit on their stupid phones.
So Doc, how do you? So there's a lot of people are sitting now, right?
More
Everybody-
so than ever before.
Yeah, especially if like you're in our industry, right? We have to sit and edit and all this stuff, right? So for the people that have to sit for prolonged, right? Office people, what should they do so they don't develop back problems and disc problems and things like that? What are some of your
They used
suggestions?
to have, they called it WorkSafe Wally, and it was this little thing that would get up on your computer and tell you to get up and move around. Like, there's no good way to sit for 8 hours a day and say, I'm gonna be fine. So you gotta get up and move, right? Chairs should be so that you're actually sitting up, like how we've been sitting like this. It's
Just thorough.
horrible.
Don't sit like that.
Yeah, don't do it. This is not what you should do.
I should have.
So I mean, shoulders up, right, arms down, but really it's get up and move around.
No.
I really like the sit-stand workstations, but I don't like just standing.
Yeah.
So they never really did a study before everybody went with these standing workstations
I was
to
gonna-
see what happened,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, the treadmill ones, those are great, but I mean, now we're starting to really drive up the costs.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer, everybody needs a gym membership. Everybody needs to be using that gym membership. That's key, at least 3 days a week in doing resistance training. Muscle mass is the #1 predictor of physiological aging. If your muscle mass drops, that's when you lose your independence,
Yeah.
right? And that can happen really at any age. And some of my patients have very low muscle mass. We're just deconditioned because we work hard, but we don't do anything, right? So we don't do things physical anymore. We work hard at a computer, and then you get up,
Yeah.
you go home, you sit down again because you're tired from working all day,
Yeah.
right? And you're mentally exhausted, so you relax. But relaxing is sitting, so we need to move more.
What does it do to the muscles in that area? Does it make them weaker? That's
Oh
why
yeah,
you get disc
just
problems.
deconditions, right? So your joint is a very dynamic structure. You've got the cushioning, you've got the stabilization, you've got the support. The cushioning being like in your back, your discs, you know, in say your knee, you got your meniscus, and then you've got the ligaments that hold everything together and the muscles that stabilize it. So it's kind of think of it as a three-legged stool. You lose one leg of that stool, well, you're not as stable as you were before, and most people are somewhat low muscle mass, unfortunately, and it's not being judgy. It's just the simple reality, right? And I mean myself included. I could go to the gym
You
more
look
often.
pretty, you know.
Looks can be deceiving. I'm not what I used to
no,
be.
you're so humble. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So Doc, so I guess maybe, so I guess the standing discs are a good option. With,
They're
with,
better.
With a treadmill under them, and
Well, that's the best, right? But you've got to be able to. So productivity, they've done studies, and productivity does go down if you stand for. I think it's after like 20 minutes, productivity drops, and you know you've got to actually get something done. And if you look at say a cashier, like my mom, a Save-On cashier, she was for years. They have back pain too, and they stand all day, right? So you've got to be varied. You've got to be doing not just standing there. You got to be moving, right? And movement's really what it's at. So like one of my pet peeves is you got a seated workstation, right? You sit all day, and then on your lunch break you sit down and eat,
Oh,
right?
So
So
exactly.
if people are open to it, which I mean people are funny, right? I mean, if they're open to it, go for a walk on your lunch break, right? So it doesn't take you half an hour to eat, though nowadays a lot of people don't even get that for lunch. But eat your lunch, go for a quick walk on your coffee breaks. You've been sitting all day, so if you have a coffee break, go for a walk. Now, you know, like the guys walking in the mill, obviously they're gonna have a sit down and that kind of stuff, but that's not who we're talking about. I'm talking about, you know,
me.
my video editors.
What else do you want to talk about? Is there anything else you want to talk about, you know, to add to the story? Do you have anything else you think that?
I wouldn't even know where to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see here. What is your advice? What time do you have to go?
No, I got to start again in half an hour with patients.
Okay, so we're gonna do maybe 5 more minutes. How about
Yeah,
that?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your advice to young people who want to get into become a chiropractor? What should they do? What should they research?
Figure out what style of chiropractor you want to be, because there are various. So go talk to more than one,
Yeah.
because we're all a little different.
Yeah.
You've got to do your prereqs,
Yeah.
right? But in your undergrad, make sure you do something that you enjoy, not just slugging through
Yeah.
prereqs, right? And maybe do something that's gonna,
Yeah.
just in case it doesn't work out, you don't get to chiropractic college. So, and then they'll teach you what you need to know as far as how to adjust and that kind of thing. But getting the ability to just sense tone. So that's one thing that I really credit to me.
Yeah.
Though I hate saying things like this, why I think I'm an effective chiropractor is because of the wrestling, because I can sense tone.
Yeah.
I don't have to really pay attention to when people are going to relax. I already know. Like, I can tell when it's going to go, and that's from years of being on the mat. You had to be able to sense tone.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. That, and then once you're there, working on the adjusting.
Yeah.
Figuring out if it's what you want to do, researching as far as, hey, what is vitalism? Do I like vitalism? Do I want to treat, what patient population really excites me? But I don't think you should really make that decision before you go anyways, because what you think you might like, you might actually hate, right? Like, there's certain groups that I actually don't really like looking after. I do. I'm not going to say who they are, right? But there is the odd group where I'm like, and it's just, it's not my thing. But you look after them.
Good.
Yeah.
So, Doc, where can people find you? Do you have a website? Do you have anything that you can? How do people?
My website, princegeorgechiropractor.com. So if you Google
Yeah.
Prince George Chiropractor, you're going to find me. We're Prince George Family Chiropractic.
Yeah.
We're down over by Princess Auto if they happen to be in PG.
Yeah.
Don't go to our Facebook page. I never update it because I'm not a huge fan of Facebook.
Yeah.
So we've got the website, and then we're much more word of mouth now at this stage.
Yeah.
So you won't find a lot of ads from me.
Okay, Doctor.
Yeah.
So I'm going to finish it,
Yeah.
and then we're going to say goodbye. Thank you very much for joining us on this episode. I hope the things that you learn will make you better and move you around more. So you start walking and running and all that stuff. Every time on this show that you see that when you follow your passion, your life changes. And because you like it, you don't give up and you don't get tired of it. Right, Doctor? You follow your passion and you're happy about it still. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Doctor, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. And
Thanks for having me.
see you soon.
See you soon.